Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is a game that no Arkham fan has asked for. It has received quite a bit of negative attention, but is it really that bad? Or does the game deserve more credit? Hey there, it's Adam from Let's Talk Nerdy, and I've completed the story of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and also put many hours into the end game, and want to share a spoiler-free overview of the story and the gameplay mechanics. I will also share the aspects of Suicide Squad that are good and bad, and in the end, I'll provide my final thoughts. Now, if you're expecting another installment of the Arkham series, you will be thoroughly disappointed in the game, like many fans of the series are. Even though the game technically takes place in the same story arc of the Arkham series, the games couldn't be further apart. Instead of being the masked vigilante Batman, you take a role in the Task Force X under Amanda Waller's direction, and must face off against Brainiac and the Brainwashed Justice League and save Metropolis and the whole world. The story consists of main missions, but also side quests that provide certain equipment that may be useful throughout the main story, and really that is the most basic explanation of the story without spoiling anything. Gameplay-wise, Suicide Squad is a loot and shoot live service game that allows you to play as Harley Quinn, Deadshot, Boomerang, or King Shark. Each member of the Suicide Squad has different traversal methods, melee weapons, and weapon classes that you can use for each character. Harley Quinn uses a grappling hook to grab onto Batman's drones or grapples to the ledge, much like Batman in the Arkham series. Deadshot has a limited use jetpack to fly around. Boomerang has access to the Speed Force using the gauntlet that allows him to zip around to his boomerang. And finally, King Shark uses his demigod powers to jump and soar through the sky. Now, these are the characters that are available at launch, but more to come in the future, such as Joker and others to be announced. Each character has a skill tree that can be leveled up and changed the more you play as that character, and these skills can be used to increase your shield regeneration, damage from specific weapons, improve your traversal stats, and a few other things that it does as well. Overall, it is pretty simple, and I found that I didn't need to stress about it while I was doing my story playthrough, and you can change these perks at any point you want to, so that's really nice about it. In the end game, there's also a squad skill tree that can be unlocked once one character reaches level 30, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. Like I said, each character can use specific types of weapons, and weapons can be either given to you through supply drops after completing missions, or crafted by Penguin in the Hall of Justice when using specific resources. In addition to being crafted or gifted, the weapons can be modified in different ways to change the status effects and overall stats. The weapon types include heavy, pistol, snipers, shotguns, SMGs, melee weapons, and grenades. Combat in Suicide Squad is about getting as much damage as quick as possible, in which you use a combination of your firearms, grenades, and your melee weapons, which makes the combat feel fast and chaotic, and the more your character is leveled up and the better loot you have, the better it feels and the smoother it feels. And if you're getting low on shields, you can shoot an enemy in the legs and hit him with your melee attack, and that will recharge your shields. Additionally, some of the missions will require you to change up your tactics to eliminate certain enemies based on the mission requirements. For example, one mission, aliens only receive damage by hitting them with grenades, and that's how you have to kill the enemy. The invaded world of Metropolis may not be the biggest map compared to many other games out there, but overall, the map design allows you to traverse through the city quick and efficiently, no matter which character you're playing. In addition to the map size, there are tons of different things to explore throughout the map, like side missions, Riddler quests, and world events that take place. And after the main story is over, there is additional missions and endgame material to complete to give more content to play after the story. Rocksteady has different seasons planned as well for the game, which will provide more characters and content and maybe changes to the map. After you complete the main story, you'll have access to even more endgame content, and the endgame content will give you access to the squad skill tree, which can be obtained by reaching a character level of 30. The skill tree can be upgraded each level after 30, and this skill tree will increase the overall stats of your squad as you play. In addition, there are world events such as incursions that offer additional loot and challenges to obtain specific gear and gear sets. And the gear set available this season is Bane, which has different status effects and buffs. Additionally, the world difficulty can be increased to Invasion 3, and the higher you have the difficulty, the more loot and resources you obtain. And now that brings us to the bad aspects of the game. The number one bad aspect of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is it's a game that no one was expecting to follow up in the Arkham franchise. Rocksteady and WB completely ignored the fans of the franchise and gave the community a game that no one wanted. And to go off that, the launch of the game was a disaster for many fans that bought the deluxe edition because there was issues when first loading in, the server was shut down just an hour after being open. And then personally, I had a few instances where objectives would not progress and the game would crash. Next, the gear and skills I used did not seem important throughout the story, and I just used whatever was in my inventory with no focus on the stats and buffs that were offered. And at first, I had a blast shooting my way through the enemies that were offered, but throughout the story, I quickly realized that there was not much variation in the enemies and caused them to feel repetitive. And not only did the enemies feel repetitive, the side quests and the main objectives began to have a repetitive feel to them. To go along with the enemies, I felt like the boss battles really did not have an impactful feel to them. They almost seemed too easy throughout my playthrough, and I even increased the difficulty but still did not struggle much at all when fighting them. I just wish defeating the bosses felt like an accomplishment. Additionally, Suicide Squad's endgame will get very grindy and repetitive, but truthfully, from my own experience, I feel like that's loot and shoot games in general. For example, the Division 2 is a lot of the same rinse and repeat of the same missions and grinding away till you get to max level, finding all the loot that you want. But where Suicide Squad really fails at this concept is the game isn't even a week old and it already feels repetitive and is going to be hard to keep a player base interested. Lastly, the main storyline involving the Justice League was too short in my opinion, as it only took me 10 hours to complete the main story, and I did a lot of other side quests and missions before tackling the main objectives. And I think having more twists and turns throughout the story and even the boss battles would have helped with this. However, this is a live loot and shoot service, so maybe they'll add additional story elements that involve the Justice League, but at this time it's just too short. Now, these were the negative aspects, and yes, they're pretty significant, but the Suicide Squad does offer aspects that are enjoyable and fun to the game, which brings us to the good aspects. One of my favorite aspects of Suicide Squad is the core mechanics of the game. I enjoyed the way traversal and combat seemed to seamlessly work together the more I played a specific character. The attacks felt fluid, fast, and responsive, and the gear you find and unlock after the story in the endgame made my characters feel even more chaotic and powerful, which is really fun. Even though the map is not very big, I felt like it offered me enough to keep me entertained as I played throughout the game, and there was always something to explore. Endgame wise, there's going to be even more to explore with the fact that it's a live service game, but also with the incursions that's already in the game and the world events after the story is complete. One aspect that I believe the game does especially great is the visuals and the cinematics of the game. The character design, animations, and the world design were all good in my opinion, and the characters really felt like the Suicide Squad with the jokes that they would make throughout the story, the mannerisms, and the overall voice acting was very well done, which made the story fun to watch as it progressed. Finally, what excites me the most about this game is the fact that there's room for growth. Yes, the game is not what many were hoping for or expected, but as a loot and shoot fan, I am hopeful to see where this game goes and the additional content Rocksteady brings to the game. I'm hopeful that they will bring more variety to the missions and enemies as time goes on. Now that brings me to my final thoughts. Overall, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is not the Rocksteady game that many have come accustomed to, but truthfully, I've enjoyed my time playing the game despite its repetitive enemies, missions, and lack of challenge throughout the main story. But the combat made it fun to me and worth playing, and I'm hopeful that the developers will provide more positive changes to the game to make it even more enjoyable. Even though I'm having fun, I understand that Kill the Justice League is not for everyone, and most of you may want to wait for additional content and improvements, or for the game to just go on sale before buying, which is why I'm giving Suicide Squad a 5 out of 10. Now, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to tippity tap that like button, and if you want to catch any of our future game reviews or our full podcast episodes, make sure to hit the subscribe button too. Peace out, nerds!